So we're Team 4. I'm Molly.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Matt. I'm Brian.
And we have the same question as everybody else. How might we improve the health and wellness of Notre Dame students? So here's our agenda for today. We're going to go through the 4 stages: what is, what if, what wows, and what works. So here's our initial design brief. We started off with our intent and scope of how we can use our ethnographic research, observational research, and interviews to gain a little bit of insight into Notre Dame students and especially their health and wellness. Brian will talk to you about the next few categories. Then our expected outcomes are that our insights that we gather will actually bolster our recommendation and actually kind of parallel our hypothesis at the beginning. And that's that Notre Dame students actually are interested in improving their health and wellness and would like some additional services to do so. And so with our project planning, we go through ideation steps, prototyping steps, to kind of come up with this end recommendation for how to improve services on campus and add additional services.
So the first stage of our project is the what is, the current realities of our scenario, the world around us, and really just taking a look at our target audiences as well as our scenarios, behaviors, mindsets. Like many of you at the beginning of the project, we were really drawn to try and just jump to solutions right away. We saw the question and we just wanted to go straight to the answer. But as we quickly learned, we really have to get a broader view of what we're working with and get an in-depth view as well of our target profile, which here is Notre Dame students. Now, our project, we didn't really want to focus on one specific level of students. We wanted to give freshmen through seniors an opportunity to experience the benefits that we might get from improving the health and wellness on campus. So our plan was first to categorize these target students into these profiles to better develop ideas for improving the health and wellness. Through our ethnographic interview, we're going to be capturing feelings, opinions, activities, behaviors. We did this through the interviews. We kept our questions very open-ended. It was a lot of, what's your opinion on, St. Liam's Hall, or describe the last time that you used a health and fitness service on campus. And we saw a wide range of results. We actually got a pretty good number of athletes, as well as really just sliding scale all the way down to some of the younger students in the freshman year as well, to get some general ideas about, across the board, what our feelings are on campus. And the first, we had a lot of takeaways, but these are pretty much a summarized list. The first category was in fitness facilities and classes, is that we have great availability with our fitness facilities. The hours are good, but there are complaints about size and convenience. As campus, the population hasn't really grown, but neither has our options for fitness facilities. Really, students are just faced with Rolf's Aquatics, Rolf Sports Center, and the Rock to really get most of their exercise done. Due to kind of a growing focus on athletic involvement in varsity sports on campus where the other facilities are reserved. Some comments we got were it's often crowded, and it's also for some of the younger students, despite mandatory PE, is that it's sometimes intimidating to go if you don't really know what you're doing. We do have a pretty wide range of people coming in, intellectuals as well as people who are exposed to sports already. Some of them do know how to use the equipment, but others don't, and they haven't really seen an opportunity to learn that, even though they did have contemporary topics. Wasn't as well covered as some of them were hoping. In addition to fitness facilities, we also have the fitness classes that are provided through rec sports. And there's good variety there. Everybody says that there's actually great quality of teachers. They're really impressed with what they got for their money. But the scheduling and payment options are a little bit unwieldy, and they say, hey, we have, despite mandatory classes that we had freshman year, we didn't have to pay for those. Why do we have to pay for future classes as well? So it was a big complaint, but they said it was a nominal cost, and you're getting okay value for what you had. And third is that interviewee said, when I was a freshman, I didn't really learn a whole lot of what my options were after freshman year. I really just had my mandatory classes, and after that, you were just let out to go into the wild and work from there. As far as food options go, there was a huge complaint about a lack of nutritional guidance on campus. If any of you have used the system that actually counts the calories and shows the menu items, it's a bit slow and confusing to use, and not a lot of students actually end up using it, as well as not actually having very good food options in the dining halls and also at other places around campus, namely the Fortune. And then there's also a third category. We just really try to bundle what some of the other campus facilities' shortcomings and strengths were. And we did see a strong spiritual health and development. We tried to target questions not only toward the physical health, but also the mental, spiritual, emotional health of the students as well. However, St. Liam's was criticized as inefficient and frustrating. If any of you have been there, you know it's kind of a hassle to schedule a doctor. They always seem overworked, really impatient, try to get you out of there quickly, and people saw an opportunity for perhaps an improvement in quality of service there. There also is on campus, one of our pluses, a very high regard for our athletic teams and clubs. A lot of facilities, a lot of trainers and resources are allocated to that. On a related note, our interviewees praised intramural sports, the opportunity to get together, even as an unofficial team. They really enjoyed the ability to do that through rec sports. And they also saw that perhaps there was an opportunity with the unification or centralization of services. So tying together perhaps the services that you could get in St. Liam's and the counseling center and the gym all into one building. So our next step after getting these interviews was to follow our users from day to day through picture studies. And we saw just a couple of trends, as evidenced by the pictures on your right-hand side. They're just a couple snapshots, really, of what everybody sees and what everybody goes through. Majority of these pictures are coming from off-campus students, though. And what we saw were some active versus inactive lifestyle choices. The pictures really opened it up to what we couldn't see in the interviews, is that, we have on the next page, you're going to see a picture of a pantry that's stocked with a lot of canned food and preservatives. There isn't really, there's kind of a gap between the people who are really committed to a healthy lifestyle, and as you can see, some people are walking through the snow in the winter to go to their yoga class, and some people who aren't. So what we did was we mapped our personas into 4 categories along 2 axes. Our x-axis was the comfort with working out, so taking the ideas about people really being a little bit intimidated to go to the gym is their familiarity with their gym and campus equipment, and also some of the stigma surrounding self-image and participation. It's a little bit of an intangible, but we were trying to gauge what's that level at which you move from being uncomfortable to go to the gym or start getting involved in fitness activities towards being more comfortable. And our y-axis is the prioritization of fitness on campus. That's like the level of concern surrounding one's physical health, and on your scale of schoolwork, trying to find a job, all the other priorities and worries a student might have in life. Where do you put fitness on that scale? Physical fitness, mental health as well. We gravitated a bit more on this chart towards physical fitness, but you'll see why. So I want to get a little bit into depth about our persona profiles. In the upper left corner, we have a high prioritization but a low comfort surrounding fitness on campus. And they usually, the big barriers here are time, money, or apprehension, once again going back to that stigma. But they do have that desire to be physically engaged. So we see a huge opportunity here to find a way. All you need to do is, these students just need a little bit of a push to really get into our upper right quadrant, which is the citizens category. That's where they have a high prioritization and a high comfort with physical fitness. These are your athletes, your regular gym users, and people who put working out into their weekly routines. They don't have any problems with accessing campus facilities, and they have a pretty good knowledge of what's already going on around campus. In the bottom left, we have our stragglers. This is like our worst case scenario category, where they do not prioritize and they're also uncomfortable with fitness. There's not really much participation there, either out of no desire or no really knowledge of it. And their habits can be difficult to change. We don't know how long they've been practicing, non-healthy, physically healthy habits. So that could be a potential challenge that we want to overcome. And in the bottom right, we have our complacents, which are people who don't prioritize fitness as highly. They might be more involved in schoolwork or finding a job, but they're content with their current level of health. They do still find time to work out, but they're not as committed as our citizens are. When we were looking at our project initially and trying to really just define these groups, we saw that there was some potential for you to change groups, so they're not particularly static. So looking forward, when we're moving into our what-if phase and really starting to brainstorm and get some ideas of what we'll be doing, we came up with a couple of questions, is how can we engage all of these student groups? And also, which ones might we want to put our focus in? Are there common core needs across mental, physical, social health sectors? And should we focus on one of those specific ones? Perhaps a single problem for a single group, or many of the mental and physical health for multiple groups? So Ryan's going to take us a little bit through our process for that.
So just like Brian said, now we're entering into our what-if phase of the project. We're trying to brainstorm and come up with as many ideas as possible to answer those questions that Brian just mentioned. So this took the form of operating within a design criteria. So we knew our design goal, right? We knew we wanted to design for these 4 groups of people. And we even knew their user perceptions. We knew what we needed to get out of each of them. We know that stragglers needed to be educated and motivated. The wanters need fewer barriers to engagement. Complacents need to be engaged, and citizens just want better facilities and maybe a bit more flexible fitness level. In terms of our physical attributes, we knew whatever we wanted to design needed to be surrounding these couple of ideas that we've had looking at our interviews and other things. So we knew it needed to be something spacious and then something welcoming, accommodating, and flexible. And you'll see as we go towards our final solution, at least 3 or 4 of these actually carried through our entire design process. In terms of functional attributes, we knew that we needed to be compatible with the ROC, Rolfs, and rec sports, so we didn't overshadow any of the great thing that's currently going on in school. And we knew it had to be within whatever the university was willing to do. We couldn't just force the university to do whatever we wanted. We have some constraints as well. We knew we wanted to fit. We actually initially thought we wanted to fit into the Campus Crossroads project. This was actually one of the constraints we first operated in. Over time, we actually felt that we could relax this, and we didn't actually need to be within Campus Crossroads. I'll talk about that a little bit later. And then we have the usual monetary and spatial constraints that any project operates in. So we then got into our true brainstorming phase, which, just like real design thinkers, took a whole lot of Post-it notes to do. So we took all these data and all these answers to the questions that Brian was just mentioning, and we organized them into these blocks and tried to develop whatever patterns and insights we could from them. And we found these patterns surrounding these certain ideas, these ideas of the stigmas surrounding physical fitness. How do we motivate people on campus? What is the awareness climate on campus? What resources are there on campus? And how can we make people be more flexible and more interested in taking ownership of their physical fitness lives? As you can see, this again took probably upwards of 100,000 Post-it notes because we wanted to really emulate the design thinking process. But at the end of all this, we came up with quite a few concept sketches, some initial things we could get down on paper and look at. So as I mentioned, one of these was our Campus Crossroads idea. We thought we might be able to operate within this framework. But over time, we realized that this is probably something we wouldn't be able to influence the university on. So we really wanted to focus on what was under our influence and control. We thought about looking at mental and general health services, but we also felt that just because of our core competencies, this wasn't something that we could probably do so well just ourselves, so that's why we gravitated towards the physical fitness idea. We thought about opening athletic facilities like the GOOG to non-athletic students or non-athlete students during their off hours, and this is actually something we may still recommend, but it doesn't really affect the stragglers and the wanters. It only affects people who actually actively want to operate these facilities. Then we came into 4 things that we actually developed further on, and we'll talk about them in a moment. And one is remodeling the ROC to offer more spacious and welcoming environment. Another was transitioning the contemporary topics PE class in order to try to make it a more flexible and more understanding, try to develop the time constraints that it places on students, maybe change the curriculum a little bit. We also thought about changing the rec sports class registration to make it a more flexible, electronic, online, something that would really be able to get students that previously weren't engaged in these classes really engaged in things that they've never gotten before. We really like this option because it operates in all 4 of our different personas. In addition, the student personal trainers, the idea of maybe you can use complacents or citizens to actually engage wanters and stragglers and have them improve the climate of physical fitness on campus. And so now Matt's going to talk about what wows and what actually, how we chose between these different options.
So what wows, we need to start making choices, and we wanted something that fit into the intersection of these 3 points. Something that students want, something that Notre Dame can realistically produce in our time frame, and something that actually improves the health and wellness. So for this, we went to do rapid prototyping. We developed 2D prototypes. These are something that we wanted to be visual manifestations of the concepts. So we're going to take these, make these into flow charts, really show different people across the board and get some ideas from them. So we're going to take our original ideas of the rescheduling process, the ROC renovation, the student trainers, and build those into some testable models that we can give out to the community. We're prototyping to learn. We're not showing them, hey, this is what we got, this great idea, just give me a check mark on this is great, guys. And in this, we're de-risking our design process. So instead of making mistakes later on in the process and finding out, hey, this thing is just fine, why'd you guys change this? We're going to use our 2D prototypes as a more flexible process so we can learn from what others think and not just our design thinking ideas. We're going to show them the story. Not going to tell them what we've got. We're just going to show them, let them kind of explore with it. It's a flexible process, and that's how you'll see on these 2D prototypes we created. So for the rock renovation, you can see lots of white space, empty bullet points. You can write in whatever you want on there. It does show some nice pictures to kind of give them that visual imagery that they need when they're thinking about this renovation, but it's not putting all the ideas out there for them. On the top, you can see the rescheduling process. And this is a step-by-step process, kind of walking them through how things could be different as you're registering for your rec sports classes. Down on the bottom is a flow chart of this freshman contemporary topics type curriculum and what could be changed about that. Again, with the flow chart, we have the peer training certification program, showing both the actual peer trainer and the student's process. So whichever side of the spectrum you're on, you can relate to that and see how the other side is working. We got feedback on these. So on the far left, we have our registration process. Our students wrote over them, kind of built in their ideas. They wanted something to share. They wanted to be able to share with their friends, hey, I want to invite this person to a class. With the peer training certification program, we gave them highlighters. So what's red? What's not working? Gave them plenty of white space to explain, hey, I don't like the terminology used here. What's going on? That doesn't make sense to me. You need to kind of flesh that out more and tell me about this. And then green to highlight what they liked. They really liked that idea that those people who were training could get those tokens back and use them for other classes. For the rock renovation, again, empty bullet points, highlighting, expanding your thoughts and crossing things out that you didn't like about the renovation. So in our 4 ideas, we wanted to, again, see if it fit into this quadrant of students wanting it, Notre Dame producing it, and improving the health and wellness. So our rock renovation of taking that Rocky Memorial, giving it a big overhaul, just really wasn't in the time frame, something that Notre Dame really couldn't produce realistically. Our next was the transition movement, which students weren't really excited about. When we took those papers out to them, they were like, oh, that's kind of boring. I don't see a really need for that. And it was something that university is already revamping, recently announced. So it didn't fit into those areas. However, the rec sports registration, where you can get an email at the beginning of the week with the classes you've scheduled, use your tokens to switch to a different yoga class if you have a test the next day, and really give yourself more flexibility, was something that fit into all 3 of these. So this is something we ran with. Also, the student personal trainers, where students can become personal trainers themselves and help those complacents who might not be familiar with the facilities and bring them down to their level and help them along. Was something that we also decided to run with because it fit into those 3 quadrants. Now Molly's going to talk about our next step, the What Works phase.
So this is when we actually took our prototypes out and we actually step-by-step walked through the process with individuals, got their feedback, really got some great insights to ultimately pull together our final recommendation. So we created a baseline. We went out with a 1-page questionnaire to all of our interviewees and we asked them to fill it out just to understand their status on their physical education, their physical fitness levels, different nutritional values, and so forth. Then we moved on to the experience simulation, where we actually went step-by-step through the process of both of these experiences of class registration and the personal trainers. Class registration is really nice. It's really comparable to what is actually out there in the real-world environment as far as fitness classes and different gyms that are available in the workplace. So here we discussed that with all of our individuals. We got their feedback. We went through, asked intermittent questions, and really came back with some great insights. Okay. So first we talked, a couple of the main topics that came out were the weekly scheduling. People really liked the email reminder. People really liked the ability to have some flexible control over their fitness classes because they do sign up at the beginning of the semester. People did like that you had to confirm every week. So we got some really great insights on that. People really liked that it would cause classes to be filled up more often, especially towards the end of the semester when people kind of start falling out of their classes and aren't as committed to it. Next we got some feedback on the token system, which kind of confused people, but we think of these as kind of this bank of you have different credits that you can put towards exercise classes, and you can move within classes within that week. Also this idea of acting a social environment here, and that's gifting tokens. You can invite friends, you can give them a token so that they come with you. We think this is really good about kind of engaging the male population that might not have gone to these fitness classes before. So we think that girls could invite their guy friends and they'd be more likely to go to one class, especially if the girl's going to pay for it. Then we talked about student trainers. A lot of people were kind of all over the board about pricing on this. Some people said they wouldn't pay more than $5 to $12. Some people said they'd even pay $20 for 30 minutes. But they also said that personal training here is also already very inexpensive and a really great option. Why would you take a student trainer over a professional trainer? This also helped addressing the barriers to entry. If you're kind of intimidated by the gym aspect, having a peer walk you through the steps might be a little bit more comfortable. Ultimately, that also adds to the conflicts with the trainer that you would be seeing them in everyday life. They would be in the dining halls, they would be in your classroom, and what does that do to your comfort level? So final recommendation will be discussed by Matt.
So we're trying to improve the health and wellness of Notre Dame students, and I think we found two clear solutions. The first being the registration system for rec sports. So for those classes, you'll get weekly reminder emails, have rescheduling options, have a centralized sign-up and calendar, flexible token bank. We're hoping this is something that can be really easily implemented into the current system to help revamp that for next year's students, and possibly something even built into the mobile app as a module to really help those students who want to be more involved in fitness feel like they can without making a huge commitment for at the beginning of the semester for the rest of the time. The next is the student trainers. Having students who felt like they were qualified enough and got trained by rec sports to lead other students, their peers, in improving their own health and wellness in these informal sessions. This also kind of fit into our idea of the transition movement, that the trainers were accessible in the contemporary topics as freshmen, and that's something that they could then use at the rest of their college career. And the really great thing about both these solutions is they address all four personas. So for example, the student trainers, those people who the wanters who want to get in, can take those training classes and become more knowledgeable and it's less intimidating. The class registration, the citizens, it's easier for them even to register for their classes, makes things more accessible. So across the board with the stragglers, the wanters, the complacents, and the citizens, all the Notre Dame students can improve their health and wellness through the class registration system of rec sports and the student training system. And with that, we'll open it up. Any questions? Thanks.
So the token concept, does that exist in any form or function currently? Or
It is not. So that was the idea, that we really wanted to change the current system that's really stringent. You sign up for a class at the beginning of the semester and you're kind of stuck in that one class on that day, on that time for the rest of the semester. That's the only way to get into fitness classes right now. We thought having a flexible token bank, so you can still sign up for classes for the entire semester, have additional flexibility there, but you could also have these like premium tokens that can be used for any class throughout the semester. And so there would be like 3 to 5 spots in every class that would be open for this kind of flexible attendance. Just like the previous group talked about the flexibility with signups at the gym, that would continue being the case here.
In addition, if you're a complacent or a wanter and a straggler, and you maybe think you want to get into fitness, you're not sure, and you think yoga might be a good way for you to do this, sometime in the middle of the semester you could take a token and take a class, and just it's a very low risk option to you, and that would allow you to get in and get out in case you didn't like that sort of class.
can you jump into a class currently, like midway through? Could you take half a class?
You could pay for half the class, but again, you're stuck to that day, that time.
Yeah.
The also idea of that was sharing with friends, the token, and kind of bring that social aspect into it. Of those citizens bringing their straggler friends into those classes.
How did you rationalize the Notre Dame implications of instituting it versus the other metrics you guys had defined early on in the process? It seems to be like that was one of the main hurdles for you guys to overcome.
I think we felt that for something like Campus Crossroads, a $400 million investment that Notre Dame is doing, and something that we as students, we don't really feel like we could really influence, but we really felt that this rec sports registration, for example, was something that was, we built a prototype very quickly on this, something that we could develop very quickly even by students if they wanted to, and that it was really at no cost to rec sports, we felt, besides allowing more students, it was very low implementation cost to them, and then it would even get more students into paying. So we felt that it was a pretty low barrier to them.
And it would also be like an improvement on the uses of these services. But right now, like a lot of the instructors will teach classes to 4 students towards the end of the semester when it would have been 30 students at the beginning of the semester.
I had a question just on the student trainers, and what was the feedback? And, I liked your model of the 3 areas of focus. But what was the feedback on that made you lead to that there was a real need for these student trainers?
Well, we thought that there were like a lot of barriers to entry as far as being intimidated, and we thought having a peer bring you in would be a lot more feasible than taking the initiative to get a professional trainer. And that's why we wanted to incorporate it back into that transition movement idea that you would take it freshman year. You might have 2 or 3 required personal training sessions with the student trainer in freshman year. That way you're kind of exposed to it, you understand the concept, and if you want to take the initiative later to either continue working with a student trainer, get a professional trainer, or develop your own workout regimen, you would have the knowledge and understanding to do so based off of that experience.
A direct quote from interview is that the personal training profiles currently online are very intimidating. You'll read their bios and it's like, whoa, am I qualified to do this? And should they be training me? So the students are a lot more accessible.
They probably look like Wendy and I.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.